A child flips through the pages of a picture storybook. The book has pictures of a penguin and some birds perched on a tree.
We cater to the people with vision. We don't think above or below that what happens if a child getting educated doesn't have vision.
A visually impaired child opens a storybook with great excitement. He feels the textured images of a bird and a whale. Children play a game of noughts and crosses. There is a board with grooves and pieces in the shape of X and O's. The children feel around the edges of the pieces and place them in the correct groove.
What really irks me is the absence of choice for certain people in the society.
Images and drawings and pictures are important for a sighted child, and it sparks the imagination, and it allows for so much more learning to happen because it's a visual medium, and you almost need no push to make a child engage in a story that's painted in pictures. If none of these visual learning opportunities are available for a child, you can only imagine how much is being missed out in the process.
Words appear. Even today, there are many children learning geography without maps, geometry without diagrams. Not anymore. A young boy and a girl, who are visually impaired, sit at a table. The children have a picture book in front of them. The book contains raised, textured images of animals. The girl traces the image of a turtle with her fingers. On screen, Chen Nirajendran, co-founder, Tactopus.
Tactopus products have two primary components. So there is the tangible physical part, which is either a book or flashcards. But what makes them interesting is that they don't just have print pictures or text, they have raised images. They have textured shapes and forms. So you can perceive what's on the page by just your fingertips. You don't need to be looking at the book.
On the next page, the boy feels the image of the tiger.
And then there's the digital component, which uses computer vision technology to be contextually aware of what page you're looking at. So let's say you're on the page of a frog, then the app knows that you're on the frog page, and then it plays the sound of a croaking frog and then tells you about the frog and goes on with the story.
They place the book in front of the app and listen closely to the story of the tiger.
I am a tiger. I am the largest of the cat family. I am very strong and brave.
A set of flashcards are placed on the table.
We also have nursery rhymes. So let's say for Itsy Bitsy Spider, there is the shape of the spider on it.
A child traces his fingers around the image of a spider on the flashcard.
And when you put that card in front of the app, then the related song plays.
He places the flashcard in front of the app.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came...
It's something that you see and then you take it for granted, like that everybody knows. But then how does a child with blindness know what a spider looks like, what any animal looks like?
The child returns his focus to the flashcard and feels the image, while the nursery rhyme plays in the background.
So, it's these two components, the physical part and the digital layer, the voice layer coming together, that makes for the Tactopus experience.
Right now, the type of content that we are working with bridges all the gaps that are caused by the absence of images.
On screen, Saloni Mehta, co-founder, Tactopus.
So, and that could be access to the image itself, or it could also be access to the learning outcomes you would have gained if you had access to images, right? So for example, we have books and products which are directly just tactile images of animals and stuff like that, which a blind person or a visually impaired person is not able to experience from just observation. We also have a bunch of content on mathematics, which is sort of derived.
Another child carefully examines a number flashcard. The flashcard has the number 7 on it, with 7 raised dots just underneath it.
So it needn't be visual in the tactile itself in that sense, but you need to have had visual perception to be able to understand the concept of areas and stuff like that. So those are also the areas that we are working on.
A child has a book open in front of her. There are images of bright red fish swimming in the sea.
How many fish can you count?
She taps the raised images of the fish one by one and counts them. She places the flashcard, which has the number 8 on it.
8. Yes, these are 8 fish.
On screen, Shapa KN, Mobility Officer and Counselor, National Association for the Blind.
The biggest gap is we are not trying to use their other senses. If the child says grass is brown or grass is smooth, grass is bit sharp, that's how I feel it. But then the teacher will give 0 mark, because the teacher has been told to give 1 mark if only the child writes grass is green. So, from there onwards we start negating that senses and we try to educate them in the sighted sense.
A child has a book and a set of number flashcards placed before her. She selects the appropriate number flashcard and places it in front of the app.
Okay, with this multi-sensory approach, using your touch, using your smell, the child is more related to its world.
Another child places a flashcard in front of the app.
Okay, the more the child experiences with these senses, that is more meaningful to the child.
There are 3 key areas that and the 3 key goals that we have. First is access, right? Just make more of the content accessible and made available and be there to exist. The second is independent learning, right? So how a sighted child can just walk up to a library, pick up something, start reading, to have that sort of confidence in a blind child, or that I can go up and I'll be able to use it. I'll be able to use something that my friend who can see can use, right? So there's that. And the third is inclusion. So which stems from this idea of being able to do what my peers are doing, and the definition of peers expanding. That not only the blind child next to me is the peer, but also my neighbor, or my elders, my sibling, all of that.
Say a child learns to complete a puzzle. The puzzle has pieces of cardboard in different shapes and sizes that the child tries to fit together. An older child, who is visually impaired, and a young child who is sighted sit side by side in a library. They play with the Tactopus flashcards together. The younger child places a flashcard in front of the app. The older child smiles as he listens to the audio on the app.
So hence we are creating content that everyone can use. So inclusion is a big sort of thing that we look into.
Tactopus is, according to me, something that is good for anybody in mainstream society.
On screen, Shanti Raghavan, founder, Enable India.
I just feel maybe Tactopus started by building something for person with vision impairment. But let me tell you, when I am visually impaired, so to speak, right? When I can see, but I may not see. So a kid is even more like that.
Sighted children in a library learning with Tactopus products.
So looking here, there, whatever. So when you give a multi-sensory experience to a child, the chances of learning are much higher. Simple, period. So Tactopus is a mainstream product which is extremely useful for people with vision impairment.
At IDFC First Bank, we have a focus on disability. And
on screen, Rajna Iyer, lead CSR IDFC First Bank, mentor.
And we were also looking for sustainable business models that create social impact in the disability space. And that's when we came across Tactopus, run by Chani and Saloni. So in the disability space in general, there's so much need for making the classroom accessible. A lot of mainstream schools are trying to do that, but teachers don't necessarily have the right resources to do it. And even at home, parents are looking at either homeschooling or really improving their child's learning experience, especially when they have visual impairment at various levels. So I think Tactopus has really hit the nail on working at really plugging that gap and making multi-sensory ways of learning more accessible to people across different socioeconomic backgrounds. What's great in their model is that those who can afford to pay it will do it, and I think that's where CSR funding can also come in and be powerful, because for those who can't afford to pay it, then you can cross-subsidize and have CSR funding make this product accessible for lower income groups and rural areas.
So Social Alpha believes how social enterprises or innovators and entrepreneurs through a sustainable business model can create development.
On screen, Srikant Prabhu, Portfolio and Innovation, Social Alpha.
What got us to incubate them is again their passion. They also are strong technically in terms of what they designed. But what also impressed us is their empathy to the the users, right? And the fact that they also look at the users not just as beneficiaries but as a rightful customers of their product. So I think this mix of empathy, a strong design expertise, and the fact that they want to create a value and yet sustain for themselves, it kind of checks all Social Alpha's boxes at least.
A blind child touching a textured tactile image of a whale.
the lack of visual learning is still not the highest on the priority list of an educator. At Tactopus, we want to reach this point in a few years where we've educated the entire community about the importance of tactile graphics.
1 in 1,000 kids typically have legal blindness in India. Like, it's not even a big enough number that someone wants to study it in great detail. Like, census doesn't give us a number on how many blind kids are there in the country. It's an invisible segment in some sense. So we need to get that to the forefront. So now that technology is changing the landscape of education, if all these people who are building all these amazing games, apps, books, do not keep in mind that there is this huge population that needs to be able to read and use what you're making anyway, you're just not considering them. Right? So a part of our job is also to sort of inform everyone that there's something called accessibility. Make whatever you want to make, just ensure that everyone can use it at a level playing field.
It is estimated that by 2020 India will have close to 2 million blind children. Tactopus works to ensure that these children have access to learning resources to study and eventually lead independent lives. For more information, visit www.tactopus.com or contact us at info@tactopus.com.